evening. I'm Ces Orenia Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Sean Yao.
The big stories tonight. After being accused of pocketing taxpayers' money via questionable flood control projects, 2 contractors and 3 dismissed engineers are now getting the protection of the state.
And Vice President Sara Duterte claims a sham welfare check on her detained father at the ICC, supposedly on the orders of President Bongbong Marcos. She says the former president does not need the Philippine government's concern anyway.
And several parts of the country are bracing for severe tropical storm Opong as it continues to gain strength. Classes have been suspended in many areas tomorrow, and we have the full list for you later on.
Pinapakita nila na gusto nila talaga magsabi ng totoo. Bibigyan na natin yan ng mga security, talaga para ramdam natin sa kanila na hindi natin sila pinababayaan.
5 people implicated in anomalous government infrastructure projects are now protected witnesses, as the Justice Department put it. But the DOJ made it clear these individuals are not state witnesses just yet. Spouses Curly and Sara Diskaya will now be protected by the state, together with sacked DPWH engineers Henry Alcantara, Bryce Hernandez, and JP Mendoza. Their family members are included in the DOJ's protection. Justice Secretary Boying Remulla confirmed this development, citing the need to ensure these personalities' safety as they continue to cooperate in the ongoing investigation. Remulla said he has already sent a letter to the Senate on the level of protection that will be accorded the 5.
Bibigyan na natin yan ng mga security. Papaalam na natin sa PNP yung kanilang kinilalagyan para mayroong roronda sa kung saan man sila naroroon. Talaga para ramdam natin sa kanila na hindi natin sila pinababayaan.
Last Tuesday, Alcantara testified before the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing and revealed new information on flood control anomalies. Hernandez and Mendoza also gave the DOJ more information today, including new names of those involved in the mess.
Pinapakita nila na gusto nila talaga magsabi ng totoo. At ito'y kanilang sinasabayan ng mga dokumento at mga notes na kanilang naipon through the years.
Again, Remulla clarified these so-called protected witnesses are not yet under the DOJ's Witness Protection Program. They will still undergo evaluation to determine if they can turn state witnesses.
The DPWH has started itemizing assets of its officials as well as private contractors. This is in the effort to recover public funds lost to ghost or substandard infrastructure projects. The agency has also set its sights on the air assets of Congressman Zaldico, who has yet to show up. Mobile journalist Julie Baiza with that story.
The Public Works Department has issued show cause orders to some of its officials. The DPWH is compelling some to explain their alleged involvement in ghost or substandard projects, while others were being asked about their lavish lifestyle, including DPWH NCR Regional Director Gerard Opulencia, Central Visayas' former RD Danilo Villa, and Attorney Brando Raya of Central Visayas. For subpar projects, an explanation is being expected from Gerald Pacanan, former Regional Director of Mimaropa, Isabelo Baleros, former head of the Las Piñas Muntinlupa District Engineering Office, Almer Miranda, Pampanga 1st DE, Gil Lorenzo of La Union, Arturo Gonzalez Jr. and Johnny Protesta Jr., both district engineers in Quezon City. And cited for failure to cooperate with ongoing investigations is Cordillera Regional Director Kadafi Tanggol. These officials have 5 days to submit their written replies.
Kung hindi sila sumunod, makakasuhan sila administratively and even criminally. So sumunod na kayo ngayon pa lang. Kung meron kayong mga nagagaman tungkol sa mga proyekto sa iba't iba nyong area, lumapit na kayo sa amin at magsalita na kayo. Huwag nyo nang hintayin yung mangyari sa inyo, yung nangyari kay Alcantara, kay Hernandez, kay Mendoza et al. na nung una, wala akong alam, at kumanta din pala.
The DPWH has also asked the Anti-Money Laundering Council to freeze luxury cars registered under the names of 26 DPWH officials and employees, plus private contractors linked to flood control projects worth almost 474 million pesos. The priciest motor vehicles were registered under Sara Diskaya at 218 million pesos and her husband, Pacifico Curly Diskaya, the second at 59 million pesos. Luxury cars of dismissed engineers Henry Alcantara and Bryce Hernandez were somewhere between 670,000 and 35 million pesos. On Wednesday afternoon, Hernandez turned over to the Independent Commission for Infrastructure 2 of his vehicles. His lawyer, Attorney Raymond Fortun, said this signifies that his client is sincere in helping the probe.
Si Secretary Remulla had laid down one particular condition, which is that meron dapat na show of good faith na tinatawag, a turnover or a return of the vehicles, the luxury items like watches, no, properties kung merong mga binili, and then of course monies that were obtained through illegal means. Umpisa pa lamang sinabi na namin sa kanya that this is the path that I desired, no, that he would take.
Meantime, the DPWH also has its eyes on Congressman Zaldico's air assets worth almost 4.7 billion pesos. These include at least 2 Augusta Westland choppers, 3 Bell choppers, and a Gulfstream plane. Secretary has also asked AMLAC, the NBI, and the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines to have these assets frozen as well. On September 24, President Marcos directed government agencies to secure enough evidence against those tagged in questionable flood control projects. The palace says Mr. Marcos wants everyone involved not to escape prosecution.
Maniwala po kayo, umpisa pa lang po ito sa mga hahabulin nating mga assets. At hindi po kami titigil ang hindi mabawi ang pera ng taong bayan.
Now, meantime, items are being hauled from the house of Ako Bicol Representative Zaldico in Pasig City. Photos obtained by a source for News 5 show a truck outside Co's house in an exclusive subdivision loaded with various items. The whole property is surrounded by white tarps. Co has yet to release a statement on the matter. This location is reportedly where dismissed Bulacan District Engineer Henry Alcantara delivered cash kickbacks to the lawmaker from Bulacan Flood Control Projects.
And now for our first guest, we have Integrated Bar of the Philippines National President, Attorney Alan Panolong. Good evening, Attorney, and welcome to The Big Story.
Magandang gabi po, ma'am.
All right. Please distinguish for us muna before we discuss the help that you've offered the ICI. The difference between a protected witness and a witness under the Witness Protection Program.
Okay, I understand, no? There is a seeming confusion din, no? Yung sino ba yung protected witness or sino ba yung state witnesses, no? Under RA 6981 po, or the law on the Witness Protection Security Benefit Program po, yung pong tinatawag nating protected witnesses, these are usually the ordinary witnesses that are being admitted into the program. So, sino po sila? Sila po yung mga taong may nalalaman na impormasyon or may alam na tungkol doon sa isang krimen na gusto nilang mag-testify or sila ay nakapag-testify na or is about to testify before any judicial or quasi-judicial body po. Ngayon, yung state witness po, ito po ay yung mga witnesses po, no, or persons na kung saan sila ay kasama doon sa krimen, no? So they are actually a participant in the commission of a crime. Now they wanted to be admitted as a state witness. So may mga requirements din po yun. Ano po ba ang isa po sa notable requirement is that kailangan he is not the most guilty, no? At pangalawa is that the offense involved is a grave felony, meaning to say the penalty for the crime is reclusion perpetua to death, and that there is an absolute necessity doon po sa kanyang testimony. At sa kanyang testimony can be substantially corroborated in its material points. And ito, isang importanteng bagay din, he was not convicted of any crime involving moral turpitude. So, ang protected witnesses, to sum up, no, ito po yung mga wala kinalaman doon sa krimen. No? They wanted to testify dahil unang-una, meron silang alam, and then there is threat to their lives or that of their family members, which would prevent them from testifying in that crime. Yung state witness po, kasama po siya sa krimen. No?
Kaso,
Actor or
attorney, itong mga to na protected witness, kasama sa krimen eh.
Kung kasama ka po sa krimen, mag-apply ka as a state witness.
So
Opo.
that's the next step, and obviously they want to be that, right?
Yes.
Because this grants them immunity.
Yes. So, yung pong admitted to the Witness Protection Program will be granted immunity from criminal prosecution. At ito po ang matindi, no? So they won't be subjected to penalty or forfeiture for any transaction or thing or matter concerning their compelled testimony. So, kung meron po silang nakulimbat, nako, hindi po mababawi yun. No? Kaya nga, isa yun sa mga isa yun sa pribilehiyo, no? Or the effect granted on the state witness privilege.
Well, but now the DOJ is saying they can voluntarily surrender the fruits of their crime, alleged crime.
Yeah,
Yes.
to add, attorney, no, yun yung pinagdebatehan no, ni Secretary Remulla, pati na rin ni Senator Rodante Marcoleta sa hearing kahapon. Kung dapat daw ba ibalik. Ang sinasabi kasi ni Senator Marcoleta, under the law, ibabalik na lang daw yun pagka, kumbaga, kung naayos na yung pagka-process nila as state witness. So where do you guys stand on this? Because kanina sa Storycon sabi rin ni former IBP President Attorney Cayosa na mali daw si Senator Marcoleta and may prerogative daw yung SOJ, Remulla, na hingiin ito.
Unang-una po, liwanagin natin, no, ang Witness Protection Program ay nasa pangangalaga po yan ng Department of Justice. So sila din po yung nag-set ng rules on how to admit a witness in their under the Witness Protection Program. Now, isa po sa kasali sa mga conditions, no, of admitting a witness into the program is that after evaluating his or her eligibility to the program, mag-execute po yan ng Memorandum of Agreement. Doon po sa mga Memorandum of Agreement, nakasaad po doon na yung witness admitted as a under the program will testify and that he or she will avoid the commission of a crime and to comply with legal obligations and civil judgments. So ano po yung to comply with legal obligations? So applying in that case, in the present case, alam naman po natin na umamin yung mga karamihan ng mga witnesses na meron po silang allegedly, meron po silang nakulimbat, meron po silang kinita, which under the law, they are not entitled thereto because it was a proceeds of the crime. So therefore, it is incumbent on their part, no, to surrender or to return that illegally obtained wealth, no? Because it's a fruits of the poisonous tree. Fruits of the crime. Yung pong, So, because if hindi po yan naisauli, isa po yun sa pribilehiyo eh. Nasa batas po yun eh. Na under section
5, paragraph E.
14. Section 14. No, yung compelled testimony, isa po sa effect kapag ang isang person, no, ay admitted as a state witness is that yung immunity niya from criminal prosecution and that he or she won't be subjected to penalty or even forfeiture for any transaction or matter or thing which concerning his compelled testimony. So mawawalan po ng habol, no? Hindi po natin mahahabol yung kung ano man yung nakulimbat niya.
So it is part of the law that they automatically forfeit the fruits of their participation in the crime?
Yung pong forfeiture, yun nga po may protection siya against forfeiture
Protection
yeah.
against forfeiture. I see.
To clarify, Attorney, sorry, before you carry on, is it kanina kasi nabanggit ni Attorney Cayosa yung Witness Protection Law Section 5, paragraph, di ko lang sure kung D or E. Parang
Yes.
yun yung kino-quote niya.
Ang sinasabi po nga ang sinasabi po niya is yung Section 5 paragraph D, which is to comply with legal obligations. Ito po yung sinasabi natin na the persons applying for witness protection, no, na once they are admitted, they are obliged to comply with legal obligations. Ano po yung legal obligations, no? There are interplaying doctrines po involved in here, no, like the principle of the unjust enrichment. Kumbaga, nakinabang ka sa isang bagay na wala ka namang karapatang makinabang doon. So, kinakailangan, isauli mo yun. So in this case, umamin po yung mga persons involved that they benefited from a crime, no, which is illegal, and therefore they are legally and morally bound to return to the state in order for them to be admitted as such.
Attorney, it contradicts what you were saying earlier, that they are protected from forfeiture. Paano yun? If there are two contradicting sections.
Yes. Ayun po ang effect nung pag na-admit na siya sa state witness. Ito po, ma'am, is yung binabanggit po natin sa Section 5, yun yung agreement ng Secretary of Justice together with yung applicant for state witness. Kumbaga, isa po sa kanyang obligasyon yung recipient, no, yung magiging state witness, is for him or her to comply with legal obligations. Bakit po? No? Kasi pag hindi niya na-comply yun, and naturally, the application will be denied. And secondly, pag hindi rin po natin mahabol yun, naku, wala na po tayong habol doon. Dahil yun na nga, ang sinasabi natin under Section 14, since it was a compelled testimony, so ang the state witness enjoys criminal prosecution. Another thing is...
So mali si Senator Marcoleta.
Ang sinasabi ko po, tama po yung idea ni Secretary Remulla in asking them to return whatever they receive from that proceeds of the crimes.
Which is which is the opposite of what Senator Marcoleta is insisting.
Apparently.
Okay, Attorney, let's go to the cases that could be filed here. The IBP has teamed up already with the Independent Commission for Infrastructure. And just recently, the NBI did recommend already filing itong indirect bribery, pati malversation of public funds against 6 individuals. Pero ang tanong ng marami, Attorney, bakit hindi plunder? Is it because it's easier to prove itong malversation, pati yung indirect bribery, and easier to secure a conviction?
Well, it depends po on the evidence that they have gathered. Kasi ang plunder is very specific. If the amount involved, no, is more than 50 million, so that's automatically you can file a case of plunder. So probably, I am not really aware of what kind of the facts, no, exact facts of what the NBI has filed against these people, no. Kaya indirect bribery ang kanilang final. So we have no idea po. And again, yung plunder kasi medyo mahirap din patunayan eh. Kasi there must be proof that the accused actually received that amount of money, which is a fruit of a crime. No?
Now let's go back to the partnership that you have made with the ICI. What's the rationale, and how exactly are you assisting the body?
Yes, thank you for asking that. The IBP, nung mangyari po itong skandalo na to, the 27 Board of Governors came up with the resolution creating the Good Governance Council. So ang purpose na po nito, prior to the creation of the Independent Commission of the Infrastructure, is to conduct an investigation on the basis of the evidence that we can gather along the way. No, so we are very happy that the ICI reached out to us and decided to have a memorandum of agreement with their office because, as we all know, the ICI has just been created and wala pa gaano silang tao. So we can provide the necessary legal support that they need. So one of which is actually the establishment of an anti-corruption help desk throughout the country. So we have 84 chapters around the country, no? So we'll be having a help desk that purposely to assist the public in reporting any irregular or anomalous activities involving government-funded infrastructure projects. Then, alongside, pag na-report po yun, meron po tayong team, no, na bubuuin who will actually validate the report.
Okay.
So, pangatlo po is to recommend the appropriate cases or action to be taken by the ICI, no, against those who will be eventually found out upon investigation, no, kung ano po yung kanilang participation, and that we will also assist the ICI in the drafting of civil, criminal, and even administrative cases against those individuals or group of individuals whom we may found later on to be probably liable for the case.
One final question, attorney. There are those who are concerned that the body, the ICI, has no teeth. Is a law necessary to be passed by the legislature so that to give it more powers?
I think because if it involves corruptions kasi, no, corruptions and any cases pertaining to government officials, normally it's the office of the ombudsman who initiate, no, or who filed these cases against these personalities. I believe the ICI will be working hand in hand also with the ombudsman because all the findings eventually will be referred, I believe, to the office of the ombudsman, no? Kumbaga, ma'am, ang gagawin ng ICI is tutulungan, papabilisan yung investigasyon, makahanap ng solid na investigation since the ICI is under the executive. So it would be easy to gather evidence like, for instance, the DPWH, which is under the executive. So yung cooperation po ng ating mga relevant government offices may be expected in this particular endeavor. So
no longer necessary, you're saying?
Yeah, it is what you call this, mas madalis or mas mapabilis po yung pag-facilitate or pag-case build up. Then eventually, if it decides to file the cases, so it should be done in the proper forum. So it might be, of course, to the office of the ombudsman for those government officials, which will, depending on the jurisdiction, sa regular court ba or sa sandigan bayan.
All right, we thank you for talking to us. That was IBP National President, Attorney Alan Panolong.
All right, we're just going to take a quick break, but coming up, Senator Bato de la Rosa could not contain his emotions as he delivered a privileged speech earlier today. Find out why when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back to the big story. Senator Chis Escudero was invited by the Independent Commission for Infrastructure for a meeting. He said he was asked to explain the Senate's budget process, but the former Senate President did not elaborate. He reiterated that he wasn't part of the small committee accused of anomalous insertions in the 2025 national budget. Aside from Escudero, former DPWH Bulacan engineers Henry Alcantara and Bryce Hernandez also went to the ICI. They both donned bulletproof vests and were escorted by police as they entered the building. No details were released yet, but ICI Special Advisor Mayor Benjamin Magalong said they attended a hearing led by the ICI. Meantime, the ICI has partnered with key institutions to strengthen its probe into anomalous flood control projects nationwide. ICI Chairperson, former Justice Andres Reyes Jr. led the signing of a memorandum of agreement with the Philippine National Police, Integrated Bar of the Philippines, Philippine Institute of Civil Engineers, and the Mayors for Good Governance. Reyes said the partnership will reinforce the ICI's mandate to uncover the truth behind corruption allegations in state-funded infrastructure projects. In relation to this, the House Infrastructure Committee has announced it's halting its hearings on the flood control scandal. This is to give way to the ICI's investigation. According to House Infracom Chairman Terry Ridon, they shall be submitting to the Commission all their findings, transcripts, and pieces of evidence acquired from their hearings. All these will be personally submitted to the ICI by House Speaker Boji D.
We trust that through its work, the ICI will be able to ensure transparency, that it will be able to ensure accountability, and most important of all, that it will be able to ensure justice.
And at this point, let's talk to Senator Erwin Tulfo. Good evening, Senator. Welcome to the big story.
Hi, Seth. Hi, Pauline. Hi, Sean. Good evening.
So far, your assessment as Vice Chair of the Senate Blue Ribbon investigation into the anomalous flood control projects.
We're on the right track, pero I believe we're going to wind up now because the ICI is already starting their investigation. So we'll just focus merely on legislation in the coming hearings. We will have a hearing tomorrow morning, Seth, Pauline, and Sean. Tomorrow morning at around 9 a.m.
Senator, yung mga dinidikdik nyo sa hearing ay protected witnesses na ngayon. Are you in favor of this status given them by the DOJ?
I believe so, Seth. Kasi parang para mas freely they can talk, they can give out more information, yung mga sensitive informations na hindi na bibigay. Take the case of the Vizcaya, ayaw niyang isurrender yung ledger niya, not unless kung siya ay under sa protective custody ng Department of Justice. So, I believe it's okay na they'll be under protective custody. Pero, yun nga lang, the question also, and I saw Malacanang came out with the statement na sana, kung talagang in good faith, they will surrender also yung mga ill-gotten wealth nila. Hindi lang si Vizcaya, kundi yung other witnesses like the three engineers from Bulacan District Offices.
Okay. Senator, you mentioned na you're about to wrap up the Blue Ribbon hearings. We heard there's tomorrow, tapos may isa pa after that. What loose ends exactly is the committee trying to wrap up before giving way na to the ICI's investigation?
Actually, we'll with all our findings, we will. What I heard, if what I heard was right from Senator Lacson, our chairman, and Senator Soto, I had a dialogue with them this afternoon. Na we will make our initial committee report after this hearing. Kasi nga, we'll just be focusing on legislation of the law. Pero yung investigation talaga, we will just, yung pieces of evidence that we'll be able to get tomorrow, we will submit it to ICI. Bahala ng ICI, Sean.
So you have already, certain legislative amendments or perhaps new laws or bills in mind based on the last few hearings na pwede niyong i-discuss to strengthen, our existing laws against these kinds of activities and schemes.
Two things for sure. Yung I brought up about yung sa pickup, we really have to review kasi yung mga dapat nagbabantay sa mga construction o mga projects ng gobyerno, yung pickup, yung Philippine Contractors Accreditation Board, dapat they're the ones investigating, monitoring yung mga trabaho ng contractors. They're not doing their job kasi how can they watch themselves? They themselves, they have contracts with in the government, they have projects, lalo na itong dalawa, si Bagao, EGB Construction, he sits at the board of the pickup, and at the same time, meron siyang flood control project. So, yun ang gusto nating baguhin kasi it directly, go against yung sinasabing conflict of interest. Yung second na dapat ayusin din yung sa NEP, na dapat politicians will not be allowed anymore to dip their fingers or to make pakialam dito sa creation or formulation or paggawa ng net expenditure program because that is the budget of the president. Bakit makikialam ang politiko dyan? Kasi we found out dito sa 2025 NEP, we found out na dito pa lang nakialam na yung mga politiko. Dapat, kung may insert ka, dapat sa second reading na sa House or hindi kaya sa Senate, dapat doon maglagay ng mga yung mga projects na gusto mong pagawin doon sa district mo, hindi doon sa NEP because that's the president's budget.
Senator, I wanted to go back to the hearing, and that's where District Engineer Henry Alcantara made a lot of revelations, and one name that kept coming up was that of former DPWH Undersecretary Roberto Bernardo. Ang tanong po, Senator, siya po ba ay magpapakita na bukas? And do you think he is the missing link in establishing itong scheme between the proponents, legislators, and itong modus nga po sa flood control?
I believe he will be attending tomorrow and he will be preparing an affidavit tonight and he will submit it to the committee tomorrow. So bukas pa lang namin makikita yung laman ng kanyang affidavit.
Mm-hmm. Senator, one final question. Are you, from me, two of your colleagues will be facing charges. The NBI is set to file cases against them. What should the Senate do? Should the Senate ask them to go on leave while they're facing these cases? What is your thinking on this?
That's a very good question, Seth. Hindi pa namin napag-uusapan yan, but we will leave it to the discretion of the ICI kasi like what we have said, na the role of the Blue Ribbon now is purely on legislation, not on prosecution, not looking for pieces of evidence. Medyo natalisod lang namin yung itong mga pieces of evidence na isiniwalat nila Alcantara, nila Bryce against two of our companions, not companions, but two senators. So, we will leave it to the ICI kung anong decision nila, kung they will be requesting na they will be suspended, then we don't have a choice siguro. So, but still, we are in the legislative, we are not under the executive. So I really am not very sure, says I don't want to make conclusions at this point because I am a neophyte. But that's a good question.
The reason I ask, Senator, the reason I ask is because kaya natatakot rin magsalita sina Bryce and perhaps also why they want to be protected witnesses because they will implicate other senators pa. According to the lawyer of Bryce, there are 6 senators in total and only 3 so far have been named. So yun ang, a difficult position for the Senate.
Yeah, kaya nga when I was asked last week, sabi ko nga kung okay sa akin ang ICI na lang mag-imbestiga, parang ika nga, siyempre mga tao, they will think na, kami kasama niyo yan bakit hindi niyo ma-imbestigahan niya? True enough, Moises, kasi kahit yung Congress, kasi may pinatawag kaming parliamentary courtesy, hindi namin makakatawag yung mga congressman na kahit nabanggitin ni Bryce yan sa harap namin kasi nga may yung tinatawag natin parliamentary courtesy. So, ang sa akin, mabuti nga nandiyan yung ICI and then we will just leave it to the ICI. Tapos kami naman, is lahat ng mga pieces of evidence namin, turn over namin sa ICI. Tapos, I believe wala na silang excuse ngayon dahil meron na silang, they're under custody of the Department of Justice. Siguro, it's high time na they will have to spill the beans na yung kung sino pa mga alam nila, kung sinasabi na 6 more senators, then so be it. Wala tayong magagawa, Mr.
Okay, and naging viral ka rin, Senator Erwin, no? Since yesterday, they're calling you the last law bender. Napakadaming memes sa social media. I'm sure you've seen some of them. Nagkaroon din po kayo ng back and forth ni Senator Robin Padilla. Would you like to explain ano po yung namin niyo? Baka na-mix lang yung words. Was that what happened? Or what did you really mean when you said na...
I'll take it back. I mean, what I will not take back is the bending the law. Dapat the right word or sentence was bending the law for humanitarian reasons, mission, not bending the law to please the people. It should be bending the law for humanitarian reasons. Kasi there's a saying, Ms. Sean, that the welfare of the people is the supreme law. The Latin, it says, salus populi is supremo lex. That's the translation. The will of the people or the welfare of the people is the supreme law. Yun ang ibig kong sabihin. So if it is the welfare of the people, so you can bend the law if it's the welfare of the people. Yun yung hinihingi ng mga tao. That's wrong words lang yung nagamit ko siguro. Yung bend the law, sabi ko, to please the people. That's wrong. It should be bend the law for humanitarian reasons. And what are these humanitarian reasons? Yung welfare of the people, Ms. Sean. That should have been it. It's okay, Ms. Sean. I mean, it's part of the job. It's part of the territory na you get bashed as a politician. Dapat hindi tayo maging balat sibuyas. And I told my family nga na what's wrong with that. At least hindi naman tayo involved sa flood control. Wala tayong mga just because of the wrong choice of words, nababash tayo. It's okay. It's understandable. And besides, I was looking at it. My staff were looking at it. It's more trolls mission. So it's all right. It comes with the territory. Parang tayo, journalist. You get sued for libel. So I guess that's it. I mean, part of the job.
All right.
Alam mo, Senator, if there's anything also we learned from all these hearings, it's that napaka-systemic talaga ng corruption in government. We're just talking about infrastructure right now. Do you agree or do you suggest na magkaroon din po ng mga hearings at independent commissions sa ibang mga ahensya sa gobyerno?
Dapat lahat, Ms. Sean, Pauline, and Ms. Tess, I believe, kailangan lahat na siguro, lahat din na, hindi lang sa infrastructure because tama ka, deeply rooted itong corruption, parang nasa kultura na ever since. But we really have to do something. We have to start somewhere kasi parang nandyan na yan, yung corruption na yan. Practice na yan. Nahuli lang because sobrang greedy na. Pero dati, yung practice yan, nasa 10% lang, mga infrastructure, mga kickback. Hindi nila minoderate yung grid nila. Sumobra, 20%, 30%. Kaya wala nang napunta sa mga projects. I believe it's really high time. Tama yung ginawa ng Pangulo na inimbestigahan na ito para matuldukan, matawag ang atensyon ng lahat. And the people have spoken last Sunday and the message was loud and clear. For me, it was loud and clear. Umayos kayo sa government service. Iwasan yung magnakaw. Kaya nga I said loud and clear, I got, at least for me, I got the message.
We thank you for talking to us, Senator Erwin Tulfo.
Moving on to the weather now, severe tropical storm Opong continues to strengthen as it approaches the Philippines, with its impact expected to be felt starting tomorrow along the eastern regions. Opong was last spotted 670 kilometers east of Surigao City in Surigao del Norte, packing winds of up to 95 kilometers per hour with gusts of up to 115 kph. Pag-asa says the storm is likely to intensify further over the next few days, and by Friday, Opong could make landfall in the Bicol region. It is also forecast to move across southern Luzon by Saturday morning, possibly passing south of Manila later that day as a typhoon. Right now, signal number 2 is up over northern Samar and the northern portion of eastern Samar, while signal number 1 is in effect for Catanduanes, Camarines Sur, Albay, Sorsogon, Masbate, Samar, the rest of eastern Samar, and northern Leyte. In anticipation of the storm, several local governments have already announced the suspension of classes tomorrow, Thursday, September 25. Quezon Province has suspended classes at all levels, while Lucena City has also suspended work in government offices. Classes are likewise suspended in Morong Rizal, and other areas covered by the suspension include Sorsogon, Albay, Biliran, and some parts of Camarines Sur and Camarines Norte, as well as Viga in Catanduanes, and Aroroy and Batuan in Masbate.
We're just going to pause for another breather, but right after that, Vice President Sara Duterte wants to find out why officials from the Marcos administration visited her detained father at the ICC. That story and more when we return. Keep it here.
Founder Tony Meloto's life work and legacy now in peril. He's accused of sex trafficking by 2 of his former male students. Saint? Sinner? Or a mere man who, like everyone else, has battles to fight? Listen to the stories of his accusers and defenders in and outside the place where the sexual abuse supposedly happened. This is Enchanted, not a fairy tale. Catch it on Saturday, September 27 at 7:30 p.m. only on One News. All sides, all the time.
You're watching the big story here on One News. Vice President Sara Duterte says some Filipino officials entered the detention unit of her father at the ICC under the guise of a welfare check. She warned that such actions put the former leader's safety at risk and said the ICC and the government would be held accountable if harm comes to the former president. Sara also claimed that the move was carried out on President Marcos's orders, who, according to Duterte, has not conducted a single welfare check on detained, distressed, and abandoned overseas Filipinos. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said the Department of Foreign Affairs would respond to Duterte's claim. Castro also rejected the VP's statement about the OFWs as a huge lie.
The ICC, on the other hand, responded by saying that it follows the international standards of detained persons having access to consular representatives. And such visits, if any, are strictly conducted with the approval or at the request of the person in detention. Meanwhile, over at the Senate, Senator Bato de la Rosa also criticized the purpose of the alleged welfare check on the former president. De la Rosa was even close to tears during his privileged speech, asking his colleagues to support the bid for Duterte's interim release.
He is now 82 years old. Siyempre, ipinagpapasalamat natin yan. And yet, if we accept the fact that he may not have long I hope with all my heart that he leaves this world not in the presence of officials who visit him on the pretext of a pseudo welfare check, but instead in the company of the people he loves. And who truly care for him.
De La Rosa also reacted to his name appearing in a pre-confirmation brief filed by the ICC prosecution on crimes against humanity charges against former President Duterte. The names De La Rosa and Aguirre were mentioned in the brief, and they are alleged to have been involved in the national rollout of Duterte's anti-drug campaign. Senator Bato de la Rosa was Digong's former PNP chief, while his first Justice Secretary was Attorney Vitaliano Aguirre. When asked if he intends to face a possible warrant for his arrest, De La Rosa simply said he is ready.
President Marcos has recently signed a landmark law allowing authorities to act early based on forecasts and risk assessments. The Declaration of State of Imminent Disaster Act allows the president or local executives to release funds before disasters strike, shifting from a reactive to a proactive risk-informed approach. The bill was developed by the Office of the Civil Defense with technical support from the UN World Food Program and other partners. FP Philippines Representative and Country Director Regis Chapman says that with an average of 20 typhoons each year, the law is expected to save lives and reduce costs of emergency responses. And joining us live in the studio is Regis Chapman himself. Welcome to The Big Story.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Well, the timing could not be more perfect to have you here on the program because we're about to be hit by a really strong typhoon. So tell us how this imminent disaster act works.
All right, so we refer to it also as the Anticipatory Action Act. It's maybe an easier way to say it, or AA Act. And effectively, as you mentioned, what anticipatory action does is it helps to reduce the impacts of forecasted hazard. So it uses early warning systems, early warning information in order to trigger specific and timely actions and importantly, releasing predetermined financing. Now that in turn allows communities to be able to better prepare and to protect their lives and livelihoods, their assets and their food security amongst other things.
The measure identifies certain areas around the country. Why is that necessary?
Yeah. So WFP and other partners are working with OCD, with DSWD, with a number of other government entities at the national and local levels to really strengthen some of the disaster management systems to be able to apply some of these anticipatory actions.
So these are like regional centers?
Well, so
like Habonga in Agusan del Sur, Legazpi in Albay.
Yep. So it's based on level of vulnerability. So we know the eastern
seaboard. So you identified these areas as the most vulnerable?
Well, these are priority areas because of their exposure, particularly to storms. So as we're seeing now, as we saw last year with a number of typhoons over 25 days, there are areas that are more traditionally impacted by typhoons. But it's not only for typhoons. There are other shocks. There's droughts, there's earthquakes. Anything that has a degree of predictability, anticipatory action can support. But I think what's important to note is this isn't really new in a way.
True.
Government does this. So you mentioned in an earlier segment, closing of schools. That's anticipatory action. DSWD pre-positioning family food packs
Right.
around the country. as
Warning of storm
anticipatory action.
surges.
Exactly.
Preemptive evacuation.
Exactly, opening shelters. Now,
Right.
what makes this different is this is actually, the Philippines is breaking new ground here. This law institutionalizes AA. This is a first of its kind anywhere in the world. And so while governments around the world take anticipatory action, what's often missing is some of the last mile delivery. So that predetermined financing is key. But what this law will also help to do is not only to open the shelters and to close schools or close government offices, but it can also allow a degree of assistance before a disaster hits. As we saw last year with some of the typhoons and the significant flooding that takes place afterwards, accessing impacted communities can be difficult. Trucks can't get through, roads that are inundated. So by having some of that assistance go to the most vulnerable before an event happens is one of the game-changing aspects.
Ree, just help us picture how this looks like on the ground. Like, what changes are we going to see? Is it like, for example, before, when after the storm, when the storm leaves, we see the most damaged areas, and then they have to request for like an emergency or state of calamity fund. Is that now going to be a thing of the past because they get the funds up front, or is it a completely different thing?
It's complementary. So again, as I mentioned, this can help to reduce the impacts, but it doesn't stop those impacts, right? So a vulnerable household living in substandard housing materials, that house with a significant storm is still going to be damaged, right? But what the anticipatory action can allow that household to do is get out of harm's way or to move their assets. So let's say they're fisher folk on the coastline, they can move their boat out of harm's way, so that the impact is not for many, many months to come, but perhaps a shorter period. They're able to reactivate their livelihoods.
So it's kind of like institutionalizing some of the best
I was about to
practices.
say.
Yeah, already on
and
the
this
ground.
is the key, and this is where this law is different. It institutionalizes AA in a very different way. Now, there's still a lot of work ahead. This will not change. So with CO Pong coming, again, a lot of this depends on the work that's happening with PAGASA to look at the early warning systems, the wind signals, what triggers different actions. So OCD is leading the charge on this, and the next step is really developing some of the rules and regulations of how you actually implement the AA law or the state of imminent disaster. And so I think where partners like the World Food Program, other UN agencies, NGOs around the country, AA has been pioneered in many ways in the Philippines, but I think what the bill does is really help to take those smaller case studies and institutionalize it so that it becomes, similar to the family food packs that everyone sees, being distributed in the onset of an emergency.
Becomes almost second nature.
It becomes almost second nature.
Yeah.
There's a long road ahead. This has been a long road to get us here. It's been a very long road, but really it's fantastic to see this progress and really, again, the leadership of the government of the Philippines.
Well, Ree, just tell us about your experience in pilot areas like Bicol, Caraga, and Eastern Visayas.
Yeah.
What was the impact, the immediate impact of that on areas?
Yeah, so we have, as WFP in the UN system, we've been working on, for the past several years, a pilot anticipatory action program that delivers cash and other assistance before an impact occurs. Now, as I mentioned earlier, AA has a set of guidelines that are based on triggers when certain conditions are met. So it's not just in any given case we see that it's going to rain, so we start giving out stuff, right, or assisting people. So really certain thresholds need to be met. Now, in the years of these pilots, we haven't seen those thresholds met as of yet. The slight exception was last year with the series of storms that we saw. One that came in at the end, I'm drawing a blank on the name, but that hit Catanduanes and several other areas. Technically could have triggered certain LGUs, but the way that the modeling was developed, it didn't trigger because all the conditions weren't met. So this has been also a learning experience. But what that did allow us to do was respond a lot quicker. And now one of the things that the World Food Program has been doing is working with the DSWD to piggyback on the 4Ps program. So again, the 4Ps program is a well-established program. It's, I think, the second largest social protection program anywhere in the world. It targets the most vulnerable people within a community. And we know this from experience in the Philippines and around the world, that the people who are most impacted when storms and other events hit are the poorest and most vulnerable. So rather than waiting and going out and assessing and figuring out who should get exactly what, being able to respond quickly and get cash in the hands of impacted populations is so critical to helping them get back on their feet. More nuanced and targeting program can follow that, but what we were able to do because of all those investments in anticipatory action last year is within days after first Christine hit, we were able to start getting cash out to 4Ps beneficiaries in partnership with DSWD.
So you hope other countries vulnerable like the Philippines will have a similar AA law.
Indeed, and I think the idea is to shift from entities like WFP and NGOs doing this and rather have it be institutionalized so that it becomes, as you said, almost second nature. We see a major storm coming and we know the impacts when we see the real big ones coming. So rather than waiting to assess and assist afterwards, already providing some of that initial support. When we see the Pagasa alerts and the wind signals, it comes with instructions for people in harm's way. Leave, evacuate, board up your windows or stock up on food and water. You and I are able to do that, but the poorest of the poor can't necessarily do that. So this can help facilitate.
Becoming more aware.
Yep.
Time was when, they have forced evacuation, but now, I guess because of the experience that typhoons have become worse and worse every year because of climate change. And so people have become more cognizant. Don't you think?
Yeah, less complacent and they're more aware.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they have to sort of experience like the worst of it and they don't want to repeat it.
I've worked in a lot of countries around the world that are exposed to natural hazards, and I think, oftentimes when you don't have that lived experience, yes, it goes sort of on the back burner, right? I mean, we talk about the big one in Manila. It's easier to prepare for the next typhoon coming through because we know that will happen in a couple of days. It's harder to prepare for something that's a bit more distance from your lived experience, for sure.
So we're now practicing this law as we speak.
We are.
We are, right?
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, we thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for
That
having me.
was Regis Chapman, who is the head of the country head in the Philippines of the World Food Program.
All right, and that's all the time that we have this Wednesday evening. Thank you so much for watching The Big Story.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
We'll be back here tomorrow at 7:30. See you then. Have a good night, everyone.
Wait, there's more coming up next. As usual, we have play-by-play with Andre and Cheska. Hi, guys.
Hi, happy Wednesday.
I couldn't help but glance quickly at the clock.
I tried not
time.
But guys,
Just a minute.
I just remembered after chatting with Regis that September 26 tomorrow is the Aniv of Ondoy.
25 po bukas.
Ay, Thursday.
Yeah,
Thursday. And it's like about the time that Opong letter O. Friday ba? Friday daw.
So-
Mali tayo pareho, Ante.
So, pang-ilan na pang-ilan na nga itong si Opong?
Opong.
At pang anong
20?
letter bang O?
Oo nga eh.
Nasa teens, nasa teens. Nasa teens.
Oy, Sean, tama ako. 24 ngayon, 25 bukas.
Yeah, 26.
6 sa Friday.
Kaya nga.
Yeah,
So yun ito, Friday yung Aniv ng Ondoy.
Naku,
Okay,
sa
go na.
nervyos. Sana naman we won't have the same. Opong will be
Ginulo ni Marie.
kinder.
Marie.
Yeah.
Marie. Sige ba? May
Ano yun?
1 minute pa.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead,
Okay na,
guys.
okay na.
Yung EP mo na,
Thank you.
narinig
Great
ko na
show
sa
as
akin.
always. Thank you. Big story. Okay, in our show, we've got a UAP basketball quadruple header. Plus, we catch up with Signal's Ava, I hope, Hantava. It's spelled Chantava, but it's pronounced Hantava because she's Greek, ahead of the PBL Reinforced Conference.
And we've got the latest from the quarterfinals of the FIVB Men's Volleyball World Championship.
I'm Andre Felix.
And I'm Cheska Lituncalo.
And here's tonight's play.